Hey everybody, it's Ed O'Keefe, and have you ever wondered why it seems so hard to make sales, to generate more revenue, and to grow the business right now in today's economy? Now, what if I told you that while most businesses are either stalling across or plateauing or even declining, there are definitely companies and business owners right now, whether you're a coach, professional, high ticket consultant, lawyer, dentist, high-end medical. I'm working with all of those people right now in different sectors. And what I can tell you is that there is definitely a group of people who are absolutely crushing it right now, while most people are struggling. And so I'm Ed O'Keefe, founder of Offer Wingman, which is a business that is committed to generating better leads who already know you, like you, trust you, that come to you ready to buy. And one example of that is we have an event coming up called Event Profits Mastery. I'll talk about that in a minute, but it's all about why and how people are using events, different types of experiences, to turn cold leads into converted buyers, right? And tell you a quick little funny story is that a few months ago was ending a contract with a client, and we were just stalled out. We were really having a hard time getting them where they needed to be. And that's going to happen. And I'll go into why most businesses that are struggling, whereas the ones that are doing really, really well, there's indicators, there's clues. This is like Tony Robbins would say, it's like success leaves clues, which I think he got from Jim Rohn. But you get the idea, right? Well, right now we have, I got a text message yesterday from a dentist who had a $22,000 dental implant case come in. Zero questions needed to be asked. They were ready to move forward because of a process we helped them set up. Another high-end medical company that I consult with had almost back-to-back triple days of like 5-figure sales, and their momentum is growing very, very rapidly. They're currently at a 13 to 15 times return on ad spend. But out of frustration, for myself, I was looking at like, well, what is it that I was doing that was kind of stalling sales, or what could we be doing differently? And so what I started doing is I reached out. I have a big Rolodex of really incredible entrepreneurs. Is I reached out to all of them. And what I recommend too is like when you feel stuck, it's usually not a reflection of your own intelligence, your own expertise, your own wisdom. It's actually just because you're looking through your own eyes. And that's where I was at. And I noticed I had 7 people respond, right? That from the outside, they looked like they were doing incredible. So I reached out to them. I said, hey, man, you guys look like you're doing this very, very well. Do you mind if I ask you a bunch of questions? And so I'm going to share the result of that, because that actually is the fix on how to flip around businesses very, very fast, possibly your business, and get sales momentum really, really quickly. What I want to do is like back up a little bit and tell you my first success, because I did exactly what I needed to do currently. But there's always a few ingredients that if you miss it, you're going to miss a lot of them, right? Now, when I wrote the book Time Collapsing, okay, this was a book I wrote about 5 or 6 years ago. In chapter on page 147, I talk about this idea of modeling greatness. And one of the questions I asked in this chapter, and it's always funny because I give myself advice, is funny, is I asked, who is doing what you already want to be doing, and what are they doing differently than what you're currently doing? And we call that a model. And if you don't have the model, then nothing else you really do is really going to get you to where you want to be, because the model actually sets the tone, the ceiling, or even the ground floor to jump off of. But you got to know what is working in order to go model what's working. And anytime I've ever been stuck, and I've been stuck many, many times, I've had a few successes and I've had many failures, and there's always that zigzags on how success goes. And every time I get stuck, you always got to step back and ask yourself, I had to do this many times, I still do it to this day, is who's doing what I want to do, and what are they doing differently than what I'm currently doing? Okay. Super important in today's economy, because while some people may say we have a money deficiency in this economy, what we have above and beyond that is a trust deficiency. Okay. That's number one. And then number two, we have a sea of clutter coming at us. So our ability to stand out and actually position ourselves as someone that they should like, they should trust, they should buy from has never been harder than any other time in our society. I mean, AI is making it so that there's so much content coming at you faster than ever before. And the one thing that I want to share with you is when I was 25, I'm 49 now, I'll be 50 here in a few months. I went into a market in the dental profession as a consultant and coach to grow a marketing coaching business. And in full disclosure, I had zero experience helping dentists get results, getting patients. Okay. But I had two things going for me, probably three things going for me. Number one is I was super passionate about learning copywriting. And then I had spent the previous 5 or 6 years studying how to speak from stage. And I was hiring mentors on how to sell from stage. And I decided to steer my eyes and my sights on the dental profession. Okay. So I had that going for me. Number two is I was naive. And that really played a big role because while in later years, I may have just judged myself and said, well, you really don't know what you're doing in these areas. And people are going to think you look this way or talk this way, or you don't have enough experience yet. Now, I share this with you because when I work with clients or we do our workshops and we talk with really, really high level people, they all feel like they need to get more experience before they actually start selling their offers, or they got to do more. Like once I help this guy at a reduced rate or for free, then I can sell you my experience. Well, no, you've already done 20 years of your experience. You don't need to prove to yourself that you can help somebody. Okay. And so that was that was very, very important. I was naive enough to know like, hey, I got to make money. I'm just going to jump in and start helping people and making it work. And that is really the catalyst, because when people started buying, they started implementing. I actually wasted about 6 months trying to do free work for people. Alex Hormozi recommends do free work until you can do paid work. In my experience, free work never gets valued. People value what they pay for, and maybe you give a reduced, grandfathered, or entry-level founders pricing, but free work just never gets valued. It just doesn't. And so I started charging. And all of a sudden, when I started charging, people started doing things. And by me going into that market, I was able to actually start getting research and data based on my clients taking action. Okay. And one day somebody came along and they ran one of my ads, and it generated, I believe they spent $300 and they made like 83,000 within the first 30 to 45 days. Huge results. Right. And that was then the launch pad, because I'm going to give you one little clue. You ready for it? If you're struggling with who to sell to, look at your testimonials. Look at your testimonials. Look at people you've helped. And that people have paid for your service, offer, product. And then you got to ask yourself, where do I go find 100 more of these people? Where do I go find 1,000 more of these people? That's where all the magic is, because every business that I've grown that has had any kind of success came off of 1 or 2 testimonials that then I saw, oh, wow, that became 3, and then that became 4, and that became 5. Okay. Now, super important there. So the third thing I just wanted to share on that was the biggest lesson that I learned was these dentists didn't know whether I was good or not. But my marketing and my content and my ability to communicate is what moved them from not knowing me, not trusting me, to trusting me. Okay. Now, this is super important to understand, because there was probably 20, 30, 50, maybe even 100 people already in that industry that were more credible, had more experience, could help them better than I could at that time. But the reality since I didn't have any money, I didn't have any clients. What I had was time to pump out marketing and content and then go to work to help these guys, right? The few clients I had. And quickly we had to get better. The product got better, the service got better, and that business really grew very, very rapidly. Now, the key there, though, that I really need you to understand is that who cares if you're not as good as the other people, or maybe you are better than all of them, and you're looking down the street or down you see the different person on the internet, and you're going, gosh, well, I'm way better at this than those people, but no one's buying from me. They're buying from this wackaloo, right? But here's the reality that we all got to realize. If you're struggling with sales right now, you got to ask yourself one of these questions. I got more questions than this first one, but this is the first one is, do they know you even exist? Do they have any ability to have an experience with you before they buy with you? Okay. And are you making it so that everybody in the industry is thinking that you're the person you should be going for? So if they were going to ask 10 people, they're the ones that they keep coming to you. Now, you may even say, I have a virtual business. That doesn't make sense. Well, no. It does make sense because maybe they're asking Google. Maybe they're asking YouTube, which means they're searching on YouTube. I spoke at a personal injury attorney conference a few months back, and I was helping the guy sell his big ticket offer or his coaching club from stage. Great people. I really had a lot of fun. Great group of people, super down to earth. But if I start searching in all their names and I look them up on YouTube, I think 1 out of 10 of them actually has a YouTube presence that builds trust, builds authority, answers my questions, makes me like them more, makes them seem more credible, and makes it obvious that that's the person that I want to work with. When I would work with dentists, it's like I can go search their names in, because you got to think about it, guys. YouTube is now the number 2 search engine in the world. ChatGPT is quickly catching up to that as well. If you are not pumping out content in a way that makes people want to get to know you better, which means it brings them towards you, then you're way behind the 8 ball on this, okay? Gary Vee has this right. Like, you got to be putting content out in order to help people and solve very specific big problems. And I'll get into that in a moment. So if you're not noticeable, if nobody knows why you're different, if nobody even sees you, they have no measurement. A guy actually messaged me today, one of our dental clients, because they said, hey, we have a new service. We can actually syndicate your content for you. I trained up my daughter. She'll give you an amazing reduced rate because she's paying for college. She just needs 5 clients. So we'll give you this crazy low discount. I trained her myself, right? And his response was, well, I wish you would have told me sooner because I have this other guy doing it. So when he was making that first decision, we just weren't present. We weren't seen. We weren't known. He didn't know why we're different. Okay. Now I can go into try and convince him. I can go into like pressuring him or her, but that's just going to be, now I got to sell hard. Okay. Now this video is about why sales aren't going really well. So you're probably like, Ed, I watched Andy Elliott's video. You should sell them hard. Well, I could, but that's not really my style, right? Because our style is going to be a little different, which goes to my second question. So the first big thing that I wanted to ask you was, do people even know you exist? Like, are you running low budget micro ads, as my buddy Kurt Malley would say? Like, are you running $10, $20, $30, $50 a day, just doing that minimally? And if your answer is like, no, well, then no one's going to even know you're existing, right? Are you pumping out content that solves problems? And I'll tell you the content I recommend in there in a second. My second question is the audience running away from you or are they running towards you? Okay. Now, this is a positioning perspective that if they're running away from you, that means you're too sales heavy. If you feel like you're dealing with too many objections, you're selling too hard, too often, too much. What I really would recommend is you flip the whole script by having people chase you. The way you do it, my favorite way to do it, you create content, you run low budget ads, you drive them to an event. Okay, I'll talk more about events in a second. You drive them to some sort of event. How you get them there, tactically, there's a lot of ways to do this, right? But the reason why this is going to work for you 1,000 times better than what you're currently doing, if you're currently figuring out that like sales are stalling or it's getting more friction, it's getting harder, is that nothing moves a relationship quicker than an experience. Okay? Nothing moves a relationship quicker than an experience. I'll give you an example. I'll give you a couple examples of this, right? So one of our doctors right now, he's selling stem cells. And first thing we do is we come in, we take old content that he has done in person, and we get more people to watch it. He's got a lot of salespeople, very sales focused, heavy, right? The next thing we do is we create an Ask the Doctor Anything. And then we get them on and we take all the objections, we list them out, and then I jump on with him as part of our consulting package, and then he answers them. But it's structured in a way that on behalf of the patients, we're asking these questions in order to give them more confidence. And this may seem obvious if you're like a really good marketer. Like if you're like, hey, we already do a lot of this stuff. Well, then God bless. You're one of the 1%ers. But I absolutely guarantee that 97% of the people who watch this video are not doing this, right? And then what you do is then you make sure that that one event gets viewed for infinity, like you automate it, and then you make sure that every lead that comes in sees the first piece of content, sees the second piece of content. And then what do we do next? We take another very, very specific pain that this person has, and what do? We drive more traffic to that piece of content. And then you keep doing it over and over and over again. Now, here's the reason why you do that is because, there's a lot of research out there right now. Like Google has the 7 hours. People need 7 hours to engage in order to make a very big decision. They said they need 11 interactions with your brand. They say they need 4 different mediums in which they engage with you, whether it's YouTube, whether it's email, whether it's text message, whatever those might be, right? But one thing I wanted to remember, let's go old school for a second, right? Let's go old school. This is Chet Holmes. Chet, God rest his soul, he passed away, I think about 8, 9, 10 years ago. Forgive me if I have that wrong, guys, a little bit. But he is the best at telling this story. And everyone remembers this story that I'm going to tell you, but they forget this one detail. And it's the Dream 100 story, okay? The Dream 100 story is when he came in, he was hired by Warren Buffett's partner. The guy's name is escaping me. They're all billionaires, right? Well, he hired Chet Holmes after 2 years of Chet Holmes trying to get in there to have the meeting with him. Well, it was an advertising company where they sold advertising in it was a magazine company, and his job was to sell advertising, something like that. But the goal was to get the best advertisers to buy more in the magazine. And so what he did was there was a potential database of about 2,500 potential advertisers that could advertise in the magazine. So most people would send an email, a direct mail, a phone call to every single one of them. Well, Chet did the opposite. He whittled down that list to 150 or so names and people. And he created an elaborate marketing packages. Now I'll get to the point of the story here in a second. And so he sends out the package month 1 and 0 crickets. So then he sends it out month 2. And I believe he said like maybe they got 1 phone call. And then all of a sudden, month 3, boom, 8 phone calls. Month 4, 15. And by the end of, I think it was a year and a half, he had about, I think 80% of the 150 something advertisers were with that magazine. Absolutely exponentially grew the business because as Chet likes to say, he has pig-headed discipline. Is that what I think that's the phrase he uses? Okay. So one thing I just want to share with you is like, if you tried content, if you tried a webinar, if you tried a Zoom meeting, if you said, hey, let's do an Ask Me Anything, if you've invited people to a local workshop and only 5 people showed up, that is a massive win, because if you do the math on those simple things, that one win can turn into, okay, well, that might be a $10,000 sale, $15,000 sale. Maybe it wasn't the 50 people you hoped would show up and you expected 15 sales. But you can learn from the data and come back to it even stronger and scale that up, okay? Now, the reason why I want to share this with you is because what we're finding with every business we work with right now, the more we can get the prospect to engage with the expert, the service provider, our team, in an education-based experience, which we're going to call an event, right? And we're going to teach webinars, guys. Like webinars are going to be covered on the Event Profits Mastery, like 3-day virtual summit. But lunch and learns are going to be covered. I have a friend right now that all he does is he invites people to dinner for his mastermind, and people sign up. He it's like he charges. He's making money to get people to dinner, creates a little bit of value, does a 90-minute presentation. They all have dinner together. Another 3 or 4 sign up every single time. And he caps it at like 12 people. Our guy, Kevin Thompson, I mean, he just does every month, he does a 4-person podcast in a network where they're all together and he introduces everybody. And he sells a $25,000 and I think $50,000 package, something like that. But guess what? He's growing his highest value relationships through experiences. Does that make sense? Right now, my main man, Jason Fladlin, probably the best webinar guy in the business. Him and Onyx Singal are doing a series of like webinars. Great stuff. Great stuff. Do they do one webinar? No, they do 3. They do 4. And if you've ever been through Jason's program, he'll say when they got something that's working, they just keep running the webinars. They keep doing more. Why? Because people just want to spend more time with the person they're going to exchange more money with. Now, where am I wrong on that, right? Yesterday, we had to figure out a email deliverability issue. And this was an issue that kept coming in. So I was like, all right. I talked to the CEO who brought me in as a consultant. I was like, I got a guy. I'm selling this. And so I sent him an email. Boom. He gave me a quote. Threw up the channel. Less than 1 minute later, the CEO was like, boom, send the wire. Let's go. Let's get this done. Within 1 day, it was fixed. Okay. Well, why? Because that person who I recommended came as a warm recommendation with authority and trust based on my relationship with this guy, right? Well, how does that happen? Through experiences, because I've had experiences with him. Well, you and I have the luxury with social media, with Zoom, with StreamYard, with Webinar Jam, with Webinar Fuel, all these amazing tools to connect with people virtually in a way we've never been able to do before. Okay. And if you're wondering, like right now, like we only have, I think there's only a couple people watching live right now. Doesn't stress me out at all. You know why? Because this is going on YouTube. This is going on LinkedIn. This is going on Instagram. This is going on 2 different Facebook channels, all simultaneously. And it's going to live there. We can spend $1 a day pumping this out to my retargeting audience, right? So that's how you start stacking your authority. You start stacking your experiences and you help people. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is probably the first thing I should have talked about. And it's the number one reason why people fail, or number one reason why sales stall. Okay. Everything else I said to this point is accurate. But if this one thing fails, everything else is going to fail. And that one thing is, are people actually wanting what you're selling right now? And is your offer structured in such a way right now? Like, I'm not talking about a year ago, because some people might go like, well, we crushed it a year ago, but it's not crushing it now. Well, things change, right? Economies change, presidents change, tariffs change, inflation changes, APR rates change. That stuff's real. And so what I want to encourage you, like, I'm not going to teach you how to create a killer offer. If you want, I mean, I can give you some bullet points, but really, if you want to spend time with me, which I'd love for you to do, 2 things. One, if you want it free, go to my YouTube channel and you can binge watch. I have some great 90-minute trainings just on how to create and craft a killer offer. Okay, it's number 1. Okay, number 2, if you want to spend $7 or $9, check out our time collapsing book. But that's not really what I want you to do. What I want you to do is go to eventprofitsmastery.com and check out the 3-day virtual summit. And here's why. Because you'll get 3 days times 5, which is 15 hours of training. Okay. But I'm going to specifically go through how to craft and structure an offer that's just irresistible to buy. And what I like to say is, if it's not a pain that's very specific, but solves a very, very big problem in that person's life that they're thinking about, dreaming about every single day, and they're gladly to exchange money with. If we can't get to those metrics and you want to work with them, then we're not even going to create an offer for that audience. Because what I'd say is, who's your audience that you love serving? They're easy to help. Okay. They got a super big pain, and we have a unique method or mechanism or way to get access to them that other people don't. Okay. Now that's a big chunk, but it's worth thinking about because everything else rolls downhill from that. Because once you identify the pain, now we can create sub pains within it, right? Like, so for example, I brought up email deliverability like a moment ago. And if your email deliverability is off, if you say, hey, like, okay, well, I solve email deliverability. That's what we do for, that's boring as hell right there. That's boring, right? But if you say, I make sure CEOs recapture 30 to 40% of the revenue they're currently losing, and they have no clue about it. Almost every CEO is going to think, okay, even if they're a little skeptical, be like, they're going to stop and go, well, how do you do that? Well, because while most ESPs, email service providers, send 70% of your email to promotions and another 30% to your spam. And I know I just hit 100 guys. We help them go from only 3% land in primary to 33%. Really? How do you do that? Well, we open up email delivery, blah, blah, blah. But that guy's now interested. Why? Because it ensures that your sales team are getting their emails to the right people. It ensures that all the marketing you're doing, all your offers are getting out to the audience. And if you're not doing that, the rest of the business, now the dominoes fail. Now you could even have a piece of content is be like, why your sales team is underperforming and you have no clue about it. Well, a guy who has a sales team, like, what's he talking about? It's like, well, your emails aren't getting delivered is the main problem, but he's capturing it with a sub problem, which that CEO is thinking of like, how do I get my sales team to sell more, right? The other one is like, why your conversion rate sucks and you're yelling at your media buyer. It's a great thing. Well, isn't it my media buyer's fault that my leads and my conversion rate's not working? Obviously, the conversion person. Like, no. So he has the ability, now he knows the offer, he knows the main pain point, he can now segment that into like 12 different things. Okay. Now, with like when we would help dentists, so like our coaching business was dentistry, but it's like, well, what we want to do is help patients, dental implant patients, understand. Well, how do you differentiate yourself? Well, we interview them. We interview the doctor and we ask them a bunch of the questions. We talk about money. God forbid we talk about money. How expensive is it for dental implants? And then we say the thread. Well, while some people look at it as being expensive, other people realize that it's a big investment, but it's the only investment they're going to be making that their friends are going to admire. It increases in value over time. What do you mean it increases in value over time? Because unlike a car that once you buy it and you go off, you spend 50, 60 grand on a car or 35 grand on a car. The moment you drive off the lot, it decreases in value. Well, with dental implants, because it's actually allowing you to eat the food you love, you're getting more nutrients, you're getting all these other benefits, right? It actually compounds in value because you're now got more energy, you're feeling better, you're smiling better, you're feeling more confident, right? And what we do at our practice is, and then you go into why you're different, right? And so I can go down and down all these things, right? One of the biggest things in selling consulting or coaching or any of those things is with our content, we got to run them through the questions. We got to get them into some sort of assessment where they ask themselves like, well, are you happy with your lead flow? And they're like, well, nobody's happy with their lead flow. And if they are, the question, okay, but you're not happy with your conversion rate. Okay, well, how many leads are you getting today? Well, we get unlimited leads. Well, first question you should ask is like, well, are you getting Facebook leads where you're just driving them in, and who's running your media and how are they doing that? Well, most people aren't going to know that, right? And so you could solve that problem by just educating them on a better way to think about the quality of the buyer that's coming to them. And like we always ask, like, well, how are you pre-educating them so when they get to your sales team or they get to your front desk or they get to you, they were already buying. They're just like, give me the offer. I want to buy. And that's what we solve for. Okay. So again, I want to invite you. I'm Ed O'Keefe. I want to invite you to join me at eventprofitsmastery.com. I think I can flip the little thing open right there. It's a 3-day virtual event, completely affordable. You're going to be amazed at how inexpensive this is. And the reason I'm doing that is the reason I'm actually teaching you this is I want you to spend more time with me. I want you to meet seven entrepreneurs who are absolutely killing it right now in their business using the power of events. And they all do it differently. That's why I'm bringing 7 different people. They do it differently. I already posted Francis Zavala. Like, Francis is an amazing guy. Like, he couldn't make it live, so we just recorded a bonus. And he runs 2 virtual event businesses that are both growing like crazy, and they use free leads. They upgrade them into a challenge. They charge $97, and then they have another upgrade after that. As he explains in our training, he doesn't recommend that model to everybody, but he explains why. And he's got a real estate event business that they have a different model. And so he goes into all that. We talk about the different models. Like, what model should you choose? That's something that most people don't really think through. Like, is the model that I'm choosing fit my unique personality? Okay, that's very, very important. Now, Dan Cashel, like, if you don't know who Dan Cashel is, he's one of the guys that's been behind the scenes for many, many of the most well-known experts. One, he worked with Joe Polish for many years. In his list of people that he helps build out event systems, like how do you turn your message, and then his team actually builds the system for people. But he gets to see so much data behind the scenes, and Dan himself is living what he preaches. Now, does he have a free book funnel? Yes. Does he speak on stages? Yes. Does he do podcasts? Yes. But he's a perfect example of somebody who's going to explain, like, you have to have a multi-pillared, like, approach to this. This isn't one funnel, set it and forget it. When I went into supplements years ago and we grew the business, our best year was $28 million. I just worked on one funnel for literally 14 months until it hit. And once it hit, it was like, get more traffic, right? Currently in one of our client businesses, I'll keep them quiet or protected for a moment. We have one funnel that's working really, really well, and we're already working on the next 2 funnels. But I said to our media buyer, I said, I think we could scale the few creatives that we have because the audience is so big. Like, let's ramp it up. Let's get more ad sets going. Let's get more creatives going. So does it have to be one size fits all? The answer is no, but you need to have a killer offer. You got to have more experiences, and you got to know what that looks like, and it fits your personality. Face-to-face lunch and learns, we're going to talk about that. We have a guy in the personal development industry who's absolutely killing it with just cold traffic to webinars. Cold traffic to webinars. Now, why is it important for you to see what he's doing, whether you ever want to do that or not? Because it's hard to do, super hard to do, which means when he delivers his wisdom, it's coming from a guy who's been in the trenches and knows how to take that lead and turn it into a very valuable client, okay? Or patient or customer, whatever it might be for you. Now, last thing I'm gonna say before I wrap up today, thanks for watching. First of all, it's great having you here. I need to, every time I do one of these, I'm like, I need to be doing these more often because I get energy by doing these. So hopefully you feel that, you're encouraged. And if you're just getting on now or you came in late, please go back and watch these. These are, I try and deliver value every single time. Like I said, go get Jason's book, One to Many. And man, Chet Holmes's book, if you go through the Dream 100 strategy alone, just go back to that. You'll be really, really amazed at probably some just basics that you can start doing more of. And then Dan, who's speaking next week, his book is Direct Response Branding. Great book. I mean, I didn't know, I've known Dan now for 20, maybe 17 years. I didn't know that he was this bright. So think about that. I've already referred 3, one client to him. I have 2 more I'm going to send him, and then we're going to be sending more clients from the event to him. But like right here, he just talks about the winning formula for high growth, high impact businesses in his book. And he talks about identifying the list of 50 experts and influencers that you want to have a relationship with. And guys, I'm just letting you know, if you create content and nobody shows up, like you create a Facebook group, you do a video, you post it in there, and you post it on Facebook, and then nobody shows up, you just built an asset. Now you could go to like 50 of your friends a day on Facebook, not spamming at all. You could be a simple little note like, hey, I created this video as part of my new show, and it solves this problem. And if you know any authors in your world who are looking at writing a book, I solve that problem. And do you mind sharing it with them? Well, guess what? I guarantee out of the 50 you send it to, you're going to get a couple of referrals, and you're going to get 3 or 4 people going, man, I've been wanting to write a book for years, right? And so we're all guilty of not doing this enough, except the people who do it all the time. And I can name them. You already know how I'm going to say. Gary Vee, Grant Cardone, Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi, Myron Golden. Those are the guys doing it all the time. And we're like, well, I'm not those people. Well, who cares if you're not those people? Those people have their people, your people that need you. And, God's putting you're watching this. And if you just need encouragement to do more, it's because there's people out there who need an experience with your gift so that they can have a transformation. Okay. So if that's all you need to hear today is a little bit of encouragement, then let that be encouragement. If there's some strategies I shared, let that be strategies. But anyhow, eventprofitsmastery.com. I mean, I think we're charging our like $27. If it's $97 when you get there, don't email me because that's because you snooze, you lose. No, I'm kidding. It's $27 for what I'm doing. People are like, well, Ed, why are you giving it away at that cost or that investment? The reason is because I know, based on the people that I'm bringing together and what we plan on supporting people with, my tribe is going to build very quickly. And this is kind of like my coming out party, sharing how I grew I never even plugged the whole loop on it. If you're just jumping on now, go back and watch the part where I talk about how I grew my dental business. But I went into that business, and what it was we just started plugging away on automated webinars. Actually, back then it was automated teleconferences and then live events. And what I found was if I could get somebody to a one-day intensive, even if I only charged them $100, 50% of those people would upgrade into our, at that time, I think $15,000 a year coaching club. And then it grew to a licensing program, and we added a couple more businesses in there. So experiences. That's all it's about now. And so whether you're doing that 1-on-5, 1-on-50, 1-on-100, if you have an ability to solve a problem for people, man, get out there and do it. So I'm here. If you have a comment, question, post it in the thing. But I'll be dialed in for you. If you come with that, come out to one of our offer wingman trainings, grab my book, whatever it might be. We're here to support you. So that's it. Get after it. Thanks for watching this, and keep going. All right. Peace out, everybody.